All right, I've got a Rebel Ti, also known as the 300V or KISS 5. I'm going to quickly go through all of the basics, the batteries, which film to use, lens compatibility, and the basics of the controls so you can feel confident in not reading the manual. The camera needs 2 CR2 batteries in order to operate, and I would suggest having 4 so you have a spare pair around in case they die while you're out shooting. If you don't have them, you won't be able to use the camera. Once those are in, you can turn the camera on by turning it to the green rectangle. That'll put it in auto mode and you can see everything. The camera will shoot without film in it. I'm going to change it using, this is the control dial, main dial, to stick it into manual mode really quickly and drop the shutter speed down to 2 seconds. And you can open up the back and you want to inspect the camera before you use it. I'm going to assume that you haven't used the camera before. You want to make sure the shutter is in good condition and there is no damage. And then I can go ahead and push the shutter button and the shutter will stay open for about 2 seconds. You can tell that it is functional. If I go back, let's see, we'll go down to 1/10 of a second and you can see that it's going faster. The next thing I would suggest checking is you want to make sure the lens is working and in good condition, that the aperture works. You can see it before. Holding down the AV button allows the aperture to be changed, and I'm going to set it to the smallest that it can be. And there it is. It opens. The hole's much smaller. So that's working pretty well. Go back to something reasonable. And then on the front of the camera, you can take the lens off using the lens release and just turn it counterclockwise. And you can see that it has the marks for alignment. And we can see it here. And I think that, yeah, I can shoot it without leaving the lens on. So I'll go again. And you can do this and get a good idea of what's going on. You can see the film back in there that holds the film flat. And then to go ahead and mount it on, red dot, and less than a quarter turn clockwise to put it on. Important note with the lenses is that lenses for APS-C digital cameras, EFS lenses, you can see this EFS on them, will not mount on the camera. These have a white rectangle for their alignment, and the EF lenses can be used on these cameras, but the EF lenses aren't also compatible. So just keep that in mind if you have another camera laying around like a DSLR. And then the final thing before we get to loading film is that if the autofocus doesn't work when you're going and testing to make sure the camera fires, there's a switch here that you'll want to put into autofocus, and then you can hear the confirmation and you can see it moving. And that's how you know that it is working. Loading film is pretty easy. I have here a roll that was exposed in another camera, body use camera. It came with a roll of film. And obviously had been opened before, and so it wasn't going to be usable. It had already been exposed. When you're loading film, you don't want to do it in bright sunlight. Like this, with the lights going, is not ideal. So just take it, so you have the film leader. Open up the back. Let me make sure you get a good look. Stick it in, and you just want to pull some of the film out. And make sure the leader is past where there's the little film triangle. Close it and you will hear it load. With the Canons, they unwind all of the film over to the other side, and then every time you take a photo, it winds it back in. So if, for instance, you don't want to do this with good film, but if I opened the back, the photos that have already been taken would be fine because they're back in the canister. They're not going to get exposed, but Do not do this with good film. The film's already been exposed, so I'm not going to ruin it. When all of the exposures have been captured, you can see it counting down. The film will automatically be rewound, the rest of the film that's sticking out, into the canister. But let's say you want to switch the film that you're using. You can use a pen to press this button right here, and the camera will rewind all of the film back into the canister. And then when we go to open it up to remove it, you can tell that it's been exposed because the film leader is no longer sticking out. The camera can read DX encoding, so film canisters will have these codes on them that are read by these contacts inside of the camera, and that'll automatically set the ISO of the film that you're using. And it can be overridden by going through the function menu, and you can see there is the ISO for the film, and then I could change it to whatever. It's on 400 because the film that I previously loaded in was 400. And to turn the camera off, back to off. For film, I would recommend Kodak Ultramax 400 or Fujifilm 400 for a color film. Those are going to be more usable indoors. If you're going to be doing photographs outside, faster film like a Kodak Gold 200 will work. For black and white, I like HP 5 Plus 400. The camera is not particularly expensive or valuable. It's worth less than $100 with the lens. This is the kit lens for the camera, 28 to 90, f4 to 5.62 zoom. It's a fine lens. I really wouldn't suggest spending a lot of money on lenses for this camera. The one I would recommend is the Canon 50mm f1.8 STM. This is my favorite Canon EF lens. And it can also be used on DSLRs, so if you want some practice and you don't want to have to spend a bunch of money on film to do that, I really like the Canon 5D Mark II, about $300. Or you can go with an APS-C sized sensor DSLR. This Rebel XS has 11 megapixels or whatever. That's fine, and they're like $100, so can't go wrong with them. I've got film back in it, and see the film through the little window. You can see I just loaded it, so it's doing that again on the green. And then you have the whatever shooting modes: portrait, landscape, macro, sports, nighttime, and no flash. That will make sure the flash doesn't fire. Because in auto mode, if you go to take anything, there's not enough light, the flash is going to pop up, and I don't know if it'll show on video, but it's going to fire. So if you don't want it to fire, you can use the no flash mode, or in any of the advanced modes, here you have program auto, which should allow you to change between shooting modes or whatever, but never really use that. The TV is shutter priority, and the dial will change the shutter speed, and it's not letting me go faster than 1/90th of a second for what, oh, because the flash is up. You can go flash faster. The flash sync speed is 1/90th of a second. If you want to use it in any of those modes, you just push that and pop that up. And keep in mind that the flash is only good for 3 meters, about 10 feet with ISO 100 film, and with the 400 that doubles, so you get 6 meters, about 20 feet away is what the flash can illuminate. AV is aperture priority mode, and that way we just change what the aperture is set to. Manual is manual mode, and that gives you control over both the shutter speed and the aperture. So if I move the dial, that shutter speed, and if you hold down the AV plus like before, that allows you to change the aperture. The function button will go through the functions. You can override the ISO if you want to change it to something different. Maybe you loaded film into an old cartridge. The I is red eye reduction. That will fire a pre-flash to get everyone's eyes to shut down so they're not as dilated. And that can be, should be able to turn, 0 is off, 1 is on. You can set the beep to on or off, and then drive mode, I believe. Huh, I'm not sure. Oh, bracketing. So bracket and what is it? Exposure bracketing. And then there's a button you can light up the screen in the back. It's not going to show up because of the lights. You can change the, this one. And I went and looked it up. The little star button is exposure lock, and that will lock the exposure. Then you can go and you can focus, and then you can recompose and fire away. This, there you can change the focus point with this, and so you can have all 7. I generally like to use the center point and focus and recompose, as when you, if you hold down half, you'll get half press the button, you'll hit it at the beep, and then you can focus on something different, press the button, and it will take a photo. And then over here, there's a button that will, so single frame, continuous shooting. I think it does 2.5 frames a second. You can listen to it go. And then there's a self timer if you want to stick it up on a tripod or something like that and take a picture of yourself or with a group or whatever you might want to do. I think that covers just about everything. I don't know if there's anything else really. And there's the film mark that shows where the film plane is if you need to measure something to do technical, but that's really not a, this isn't a camera to do it. Oh, there we go. This is the, okay, it's the depth of field preview button. And if you push this, the aperture of the lens will close down. I'm not sure if it's going to show up on video, but you can hear it a little bit. And that'll close down the aperture so you can get an idea of the depth of field. Oh, and the one more thing. Looking through the viewfinder, you can slide the cup up and off, and here you have a diopter adjustment, so you can change the focus of the viewfinder if you wear glasses or something like that to make sure it's in focus, or someone previously might have had it off, so you can change that and then simply slide the eye cup down into place, which you hopefully have. There's the hot shoe on top. It takes any center fire flash, and you can get other ones that have TTL and other features, but I'll leave it at that. So I think that covers most of the basics of the camera. You should know enough to be able to use it and shoot it confidently. If there's anything I left out or there was something you thought I should have gone more in depth over, please let me know. I'll be making more videos. I've got lots of cameras around. I like using them, and I want to make sure that everyone out there can have an easier time using the camera they come across, because they can be quite enjoyable. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.